Welcome everyone, I am Something Wicked and this is my very first video. It is going to be a how-to video on Mequip. I'm going to talk about a couple things. I'm going to talk about Unit Creator, some setup type things, and as you can see on my screen right now, the way that I've got my data file set up, this is basically right out of, here's the root for it, Steam Library, Steam Apps, Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, and of course custom content, custom units. Um, I think originally it comes viewed like this or something similar, which is garbage. It doesn't do any good. So this is how I keep mine. That way I can see everything that's behind it. I also have it set up customized in the properties, optimizing it for pictures so that you can actually see the things that are in there. It's just kind of a little tip. I sort them differently as well when it comes to sorting. You can come down and choose the items here, but I like to use date modified and descending so that the very last thing that I either create or the very last thing that I save, I'm sorry, not save because in game it won't do that, but the very last thing that I modify here, maybe a data entry, or if I change an icon, for example, I can customize the folder and choose that file. And it used to apply whenever I would come back. But anyway, I'm digressing. So just a couple things that we're going to go over. This is the first thing. Um, while we're doing this, I'm going to load the game, and then I'll open up another data file and kind of talk about some of the things that you just edit and common things that are edited in data files. Um, the example that I'm going to use for Mequip is down here anyway, so we'll just use this. Um, okay, so inside each unit has a folder inside the custom units folder of tabs. Inside that folder is a data file. I use Notepad++ to do my data entry for the Notepad files, and a picture of the icon that you use when you update what the icon looks like. Opening this up, this is what it looks like, for example. With Notepad++, it adds all of this, gives you lines, and it separates everything's by distance. But the things that we edit commonly are obviously health. This is movement speed. Step multiplier is an in-unit creator. And then down here is mass and size. Those are the things that are in unit creator. Those are some of the things that you can edit. But when it comes to prop editing, you can see down here below all of that listed here, these are the props. So anytime that you enter or you add something to a unit, its ID number will get added based upon this ID number right here, which can be looked up. It's a global value or it's a global ID, but it gets added to this props here in the list. And then below that, each one of those props that correspond to here, for example, this last prop, whatever this item is the last on this list. It will also correspond to the last set of values or the last expression in this chain of string values. So that prop that I highlighted, the information that governs the position scale of that prop and even the color are all in its corresponding order, I guess you could say, to the actual prop list. So that's handy as well. Very important actually when you come down to doing Mequip, because what we may end up doing is the very last two items that we add are where we're going to have to do our changes to in the prop data below. For example, if these were the last two items, but we'll get into that as well. So that's just a start to it. Sounds like the game is loaded up, and it has, so we're going to come into custom content. And like I mentioned before, we're going to use the Rohan Civilian U, which for me stands for unarmed. Something that Cal taught me, which I didn't do in this example, is the first thing that you add for any unit, shit, wrong button, is a ski mask or a pair of pants or something that cannot be altered, that the X, Y, Z values, position scale, all of that stuff cannot be altered. And there are some items in the game that cannot be altered. For example, the ski mask or pants, or I think the advanced guide on the wiki describes it as anything that is not a static item, anything that touches one or more items on the body, arms, legs, shoulders, chest, combination of the two. Anyway, what we'll need to do is open up prop sizing, move this over. I personally dragged this down out of the way. Since I was making a lot of giants, I moved it over here, but we'll close this out. Okay, first things first. So I added that one just as an example, but also just kind of a note with Unit Creator. Until you add or remove an item, you cannot manipulate anything here. So none of the values or none of the items will actually show up in here. But now that we've done so, here's an example of mequip that I've already used. As you can see, the tribal shoulder and the knight shoulder are both equipped on just the left side. And when we had the data file entry open, I could have shown you where these are already, the data file entry is already changed. But what we're going to do is we're going to add something else. So what I'm thinking about adding is we'll use something that we know that we can manipulate, and I believe that it's that legacy belt. I've used a couple of these on a couple other units in the past, but some easy manipulation. Obviously, the first thing that we're going to do when we add it is we're going to select it in our drop-down, which is the very last item, legacy belt here. So it's our very last item that we're going to select. Okay, now we have control of that. Another thing that I do is I make this value a 2. So you got the minimum range and the maximum range. I usually make that a 2 just in case I need to make an item larger. I'm not restricted by the value of 1 being its normal base value. And for the prop position, I usually change this to a -1. So its value will be in a range between 0 and -1, allowing me to go positive or negative of 0, 1, or -1. Okay, so having said that, we're going to move, first of all, this belt, we're going to move it on the Y plane, which is the vertical plane, up, and I'm going to move it, I'm going to actually make it into a shoulder guard. So it's up, looks like decently high enough. The X plane, which is left and right, and the Z plane is the forward and back plane. So see, as we can see, we're just kind of moving it in here, trying to get a good position on distance from here. It looks like we're going to bring it back just a little bit to kind of line it up with the shoulder better. The last thing that we want to do is get some good clipping. Okay, so we're gonna have to change the size, I know already. Okay, so again, the scale of it as well, X, Y, and Z. The Z scale is the forward and back scale, the Y scale is the height scale, and the X scale is the width scale of it. So I want to make it a little less fat. So I'm going to put it right about there, and I'm going to have to move it forward a little bit. What I don't want it to do is clip into that. So I'm going to, okay, put that there. Okay. So that looks good. But wicked, that didn't do us a damn thing, did it? No, it didn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to add something to the arms. And what we're going to add to the arm is we'll probably go a shoulder guard or something. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, so for just today's example, we're not going to use the exploit or the bypass. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop an item or two. We mentioned the legacy pants. You know what? Well, Wild West, sure, we can't manipulate that as well. Hell with it, we'll just take the pirate vest off, and we'll take the belt off as well. Okay, so that gives us a little more room to add a couple more things. What we could do is we could add a bird. Let's do that. We're going to add an owl to the shoulder. That's a good one. I was actually talking about birds in Discord earlier today, and I mentioned that I used mequip and in the X plane to do a couple different things. But anyway, okay, so here we go. That's going to be our owl. What we can do to show that we can manipulate it is we'll select it as well. And of course, whenever you're moving anything, until you click it over, it won't make the change correspond on the other side. So once I select my owl, for example, I'm going to move it out a little bit, but it's not going to make the change over on this side until I reload, or just, I don't know, just click up there. So anyway, then it makes that change. Having said that, however, there are only certain changes to the position planes that you can make until it breaks the item, and then you have to go in and make data change edits, which I'll explain in a totally different video. But however, just keep this in mind, most of the time, the X plane will break a prop. For example, X plane moving it vertically on this instance When it goes vertical on this side, when you try to make the corresponding change, it will make an opposite vertical change on the other side. So if you notice, this side went up, whereas this side went down. So in order to make that change, to match it, you would have to do the mequip and then add an additional item and just match it to its opposite, basically. But like I said, I'll make another video on that. So anyway, we're going to change this back to 0, just because I don't want it to be there. We're going to get it back corresponding, so we know, okay, so but we're just going to put it on that right side, and that's all that we're going to do. So when we do our mequip, we'll remove the left side and we'll equip it just on the right side. So far it's just on that last item, and we're going to add one more. We're going to call it a shoulder guard, a medieval shoulder. And we're going to use this one right here. That one's nice and easy. Okay, so but what we can do is we can make some small changes to it before we do our mequip on this. So we've selected it. First thing I'm going to do is going to bring it out just a little bit on the Y position. So that's going to bring it away from the body. And of course I knew that I was not looking at the right spot. Here we go. Okay. So because we can't see it, we'll just kind of have to play it along just a little bit. We can also satisfy the 0.02. That'll bring it out just a little bit. Okay, so yeah, that's not bad. No, we'll go 0.1. Okay, so that looks all right. We don't have very much clipping. We are, however, just a little bit wide here, so we want to be just a little less than 1. Typically 85 is a good number. That usually works on about everything. Almost. Okay, so we'll just change it a little bit. We'll just go 0.8, which puts it 500 smaller, and we look good on that side. Good enough. Anyway, good enough for the girl's eyes today and this example. Okay, so here we have that. Just a quick little bit of information on movement, position, and scale using the legacy belt. And we'll keep in mind, again, we might even, you know what, we'll screenshot it. Just so that we can remember sometimes when things get more complicated and you have a lot more items, a good screenshot, you can always just pull up and you can count backwards. Yep, that was the 5th or 6th from the bottom. Just another little tip. So anyway, we've done that. So let's save this then, and hell with it, we'll go in and I'll just redo it. Okay. Call that 60. We'll overwrite it because we know where it's at. Okay, and then some people can hot load, which is really handy. Another little tip, which I can't do for some reason, I think it's my install, but if you just rename an item twice when you make changes, it works. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit, I'm going to make the data entry, and then I'll see you when I get back. Okay, so let's go back to our custom content, custom units, and again, we're going to find our guy, open it up. Since we already had it opened, it's giving us the warning that it's been opened and saved by, or it's been modified by another program. Yes, we want to reload it because we want the latest change to it. Again, we're going to scroll down, and as I mentioned previously, this is where our cursor was, and we've added some items. So these last items are gonna be our last items. And what we'll do is we'll go and we'll just open up our last screenshot and verify that in fact these are the items that we want to modify, the last two, and we're going to put them both on just this right side by modifying the mequip in the data file. So having that open, we already know that these are our last two items. So we're going to scroll down to the very last two values. I think they're called expressions technically. I'm not a rocket scientist, I just play one on TV. Okay, here we go. And these are the values that we're going to be modifying. So for this last article, for the last item, this is the expression that values or that determines its position offset, its scale, and its colors. And if I remember correctly, that one was the medieval shoulder pad. So yeah, 2 colors to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace the 0 with a 2. If I wanted it on the left side, I would replace it with a 1. Since I want it on the right side, I'm replacing it with a 2. The same thing for the other, which was the owl. And I'm going to replace that with a 2 as well. I'm going to save my game. and I have to reload each time. I can tell you another little tick, or I'm sorry, another little tip that Cal taught me, which I call hot loading, is after you make a data file entry, all you have to do is tab out of the game. You don't have to quit. At least some people don't. Tab out of the game, but leave it running still. Make your data file entries, save it, and then go back into game. And in the custom content screen where it shows all of the units, all you have to do is rename an item twice. You open it, and instead of editing, you just hit rename. And you don't have to change anything. You just click rename, confirm, do that twice, and it refreshes everything that is in your custom content. It's brilliant. I know it works for Cal. I've seen her do it on her Discord, but it doesn't work for me. Anyhow, this is how I do it. So here is our civilian that we made our edits to. We're going to change him. And once we open it, you should see that everything's going to be on his right side that we added anyway. And voila. Now you can make changes to it, to its position and scale values again. However, since it's on the right side, remember it's not going to make the changes until you refresh it or you update the unit base, left or right, again, because it's on the right side. If we made those changes and we can make, all the stuff on the left side and it shows, that's just a gameism. But that's basically it. I'll show you what I was talking about for the hot loading. So like, for example, if I would have tabbed out of the game and I would have come over and I would have made my changes, I can come over here and I can change this to the left side, blah, 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 blah. I make my change, I save, and then I can come right back into here and then I say rename. Rename. And then when you go into edit, pow, it uploads and it refreshes all of that data. Like I said, I've seen others do it, but it doesn't work for me. And that's basically it. That is basically mequip in a nutshell. Of course, there are other more advanced techniques and some other small tricks, which, like I said, I'll make some more videos on in the future. But that's basically it. Again, I'm Something Wicked. Just started playing tabs. I've had a lot of help, and I've been very appreciative for it. So I'll see you around. Again, I'm Something Wicked 3, I think 8784 on Discord. I think that's me. Yep, that's me. So, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and take care.